Hey guys, welcome back. And it is time to start the second SPFBO reading vlog. This is probably going to include 3 books. I'm going to try to squeeze in 3 books, and we may do the review process just a little bit differently this time. We'll see. If you have no idea what I'm talking about or what SPFBO is, I will put up a link to either my last vlog or my predictions that will give you a lot more information on how the contest works, what we're doing, what this is all about. But basically, I'm reading all 10 of the self-published fantasy blog off Finalists. And I've already read the first 2. Again, we'll leave the link somewhere to that first video, which included Small Miracles and The 13th Hour, both of which were a pretty big success. So I'm hopeful that we're gonna keep getting wins, but we shall see. Hey guys, quick detour from today's video to remind you about Magic Mind. This is a coffee replacement drink that really helps to keep you more focused and support brain health, and they are sponsoring today's video. This supplement has some really good things in it, such as matcha and nootropics, and it has things for immunity health like vitamin C and vitamin D. It removes a lot of that negative effects of caffeine and really helps to keep you more focused. For me, I did find that it really did help keep me focused. There was one night that it actually kept me awake when I drank it too late in the day, and for the last couple of months, they've been doing a campaign to do more for yourself and also a campaign to help save the Amazonian rainforest. They've done some really great things, and so I just wanted to remind you guys about their product today. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for sponsoring today's video, and back to the vlog. I did do my little spinner off camera and ended up with A Song for the Void. I'll put up a picture here, and then I will hold up the book at some point, but it's in the office and I'm a little lazy and don't really want to go get it right now. So that is a cosmic horror. It is set in 1800s China on the sea, obviously. And I'm interested, but cautiously optimistic. I know that this is one that a lot of people are predicting to be their least favorite. It is not as fantasy as a lot of the other ones, but obviously made it through to the finalists of this competition. So it was fantasy enough. And I don't know, I'm curious. I like horror. I've not read a lot of cosmic horror. I'm not even 100% sure what cosmic horror is. Let's Google that real quick together because I don't know. So Wikipedia tells me that it's Lovecraftian horror, which is also cosmic horror, emphasizes the horror of the unknowable and incomprehensible more than gore or other elements of shock. It emphasizes dread, forbidden and dangerous knowledge, madness, non-human influences, religion, fate. I feel like that's not. So this one says that it generally explores the insignificance of human existence compared to the vast universe. That kind of makes sense based off of what I know about A Song for the Void. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm, like I said, cautiously optimistic. So I'm gonna get started on that one, give you my first impressions, and we'll go from there. Hey friends, so I just got to work. We're going to do a really quick update because I forgot to tell you guys that I had started Scales and Sensibility, and this is a Regency type story about a young woman who loses her parents and is separated from her sisters. She's taken in by her aunt, and her cousin is absolutely awful, so she steals her dragon and tries to get away, but ends up disguised and back in the house. This book is well written. I can absolutely say that. The audiobook is well narrated. I understand why I've had some people really, really loving this book. However, Regency does not work for me. I do not care, and I am so bored. It is not even funny. We're not DNFing, and honestly, the book is not bad enough that I feel like I should be DNFing. However, I just don't
care about the Regency lifestyle, the over-the-top drama and personalities of a lot of these characters. Again, it's all very intentional. It just does not work for me. So we're gonna see. I'm halfway. We'll see if the plot kind of starts to pick up, because at the moment it just is very, very slow. The plot, I don't think, is done super well. There's not much of one to begin with, and what is there is being very drawn out. And I kind of wish we would just get a move on a little bit and things would start to happen. But yeah, anyway, not the book for me, but we'll see if it changes my mind and dazzles me in the end. I know Maria said that there was something that happened that made it not a 5-star for her anymore. So I'm really curious to see what that was and how I'm going to feel about it. So I'm afraid that I'm going to finish it today, and I didn't want to not check in with you guys before I got it finished. So I'm going to go to work, and I'll catch you guys later. So I figured I'd do a little B-roll with you guys about my cookies that I'm making. I have to go to a Christmas party tomorrow night, and it's a Christmas cookie swap, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some cocktails, we're going to have food, we're just going to stuff our face with cookies, and I think it's going to be a great time. I decided to do Snickerdoodle. Mom and I bake cookies every single year, and we always do a bunch of different kinds, and we try a bunch of different recipes on like Pinterest and stuff, but every year we always make Snickerdoodle cookies, and there's a reason. They are amazing. So let me know if you guys want the recipe for that, but it's always kind of nerve-wracking when you make cookies or make anything for some kind of party, because it's like, okay, well, what if I screw something up and they're not very good? So naturally, I had to try one from each batch just for consistency's sake.
All right, friends, it has been a really, really long day. This week at work, I don't know what's been going on, but it has been insanity to the point where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here. That's all I got for you. But I told you guys this morning I thought I was going to finish Scales and Sensibility, and I did. So completed this. Let's chat about it, shall we? I knew that this was not going to be the book for me before going into it. Regency era, rich people drama in this setting just is not something that really calls to me, and it's not something that I was expecting to love, but it was something that I was hopeful that I would enjoy. Unfortunately, this had way too much eye rolling for me. Like, literally, I was driving down the road and would just roll my eyes because I was like, even in Regency, this is a little bit over the top. So I think that the author was trying very hard to make it fun and silly and just an overall outrageously good time. And I think for the most part, she accomplished that, but I do think that she went a little bit too overboard. Things felt so dramatic to the point of not even suspending disbelief. It was just borderline ridiculous. And the plot was kind of all over the place. It didn't really feel very narrowed down to me. We had a bunch of different subplots going on, and I didn't feel like that was entirely necessary. There was basically no character development throughout the story. I did not dislike Eleanor. I found that she was pretty interesting. She's our main character, and I loved the dragon, obviously. I mean, the dragon was adorable. I felt really sorry for him, but he was adorable. But otherwise, the characters were just... I think I see a spider. The characters were just exactly what you expected them to be. They weren't anything, they didn't really have any depth. They didn't have any nuance or development throughout the story. And I don't mind that a lot of the characters were unlikable. That's fine. I just wish that they had been either less over the top or a little less predictable. One of the two. But they did what I think that Miss Burgess set out for them to do. So it's kind of one of those situations where do you fault her for that or do you not? But I do think that the characters could have been a little bit more fleshed out. Let's see. I liked the male interest. I forget his name now, but I liked him. I did find that the romance in here was extremely far-fetched. Like, at one point, they exactly said, "I have known you for 4 days," and then in the same breath said, "I love you." I just didn't buy it. They hadn't spent enough time together. I didn't buy it. I did not buy it. I did not get it. I don't, nope. Anyway, so the moral of the story is if you want an outrageous rich people drama and you do not mind very expected characters and you want a little Regency with dragons sprinkled in, this is probably going to work for you. If you are somebody that finds books that are way too over the top and require a lot of suspension of belief, have a lot of very intentionally unlikable characters, maybe this one wouldn't work for you. And again, I say intentionally unlikable. That part is not what bothered me. It was the lack of any substance to them that bothered me. Anyway, so let's put this through the spreadsheet and just kind of see what we end up with. I'm a little bit scared of the rating on this one, but let's see what we get. My computer is going to die. Let's hope that it lasts long enough for me to put through this rating. So characters for scales and sensibility, I think that we're gonna have to go with like a 5.5 on this one. They were pretty good, a little bit better. No, I take that back. I'm gonna go with a 6 on this one. They were more good than bad in the fact that I think that they were very intentional, so I do have to give her credit for that, but they were as cookie cutter as they get, and so I don't think I can give it more than a 6 on this one, despite the intentionality. And then for the plot, I think I'm also gonna have to give it a 6 for plot. Again, intentional, but there was just a lot of little things kind of going on that were distracting because none of it was fleshed out enough for me to fully get behind the entire plot. It wasn't bad. It was better than bad, I guess, better than okay, but just still didn't quite work for me. And then as far as world building, I do think that this Regency setting was very well done. I think that I could very clearly see I guess, did they do bonnets? I don't know. I could see the attire. I could see the people squabbling at each other. I could see the snooty, nose up in the air kind of thing. So I think that the world building was good. I think she did a really good job with that. So I'm gonna give the world building, I think, an 8. Writing also think was very, very well done. I think that Stephanie Burgess definitely knows how to write a book, and I did not find the prose to be a consistent problem. The word choices and everything were good. The themes and everything made sense. The dialogue, I felt a little bit unnatural, but it also made sense for the setting that we were talking about. So I think I'm gonna give the writing an 8 as well. And then for enjoyment, unfortunately, I rolled my eyes so much at this book. I don't think the enjoyment can get over a 5. I did like the little dragon. I did not like the setting. It just did not work for me. The characters didn't work for me. So I think I'm going to have to give the enjoyment on this one a 4. It's below par. It's not even half and half for me, but it wasn't miserable. I did not hate my time. I did not just want to throw up my hands and throw it across the room or anything like that. So it wasn't quite 50-50, but again, it wasn't a hate read. So I think a 4 seems reasonable to me. That might adjust a little bit, but I think that this is where we're at. If it stays like I have it now, which I think that it probably will, we are looking at a 6.4 for this one. The enjoyment score definitely way brought it down, because otherwise, let's say I'd given it a 6 for enjoyment or a 7 for enjoyment, it would have been right at a 7, which is exactly a 3.5. But unfortunately, I do think that I'm gonna have to give it a 4. And a 6.4 still comes out at a 3-star read. I can be objective and say that this is not a bad book. It's just not a me book, which is fair. So I think that's all for Scales and Sensibility. I have not really read a lot more of Song for the Void. I've been avoiding it a little bit. What I've read so far is very historical, and I've been told that there's a pretty significant racism element to this book. I can understand why an author would want to keep authenticity. We're talking about China in 1853, and it's part of the Opium Wars. I know that this existed in the time period, but I also feel like there is a way to relay that without being distasteful, if that makes sense. Not that I don't know. Racism in no sense of the word is ever going to be tasteful, but I'm concerned. I'm already starting to see it a little bit, and I'm not very far into this book at all. So we're gonna see how this goes. I've also kind of seeing the cosmic element to it, but if that is all we get for the majority of the book is the little bit of horror that I've seen so far, this is not gonna work for me. It's well written. Technically, I don't have any problems with the writing. The main character is a little bit, I won't say that he's whiny, but he's not, if he doesn't get more to him, more substance to him, he's not gonna work for me because his, like I think Cassidy said, entire personality is just his opium addiction. And I agree with that. I'm gonna need more backstory into why he had an opium addiction and why he had all of this trauma and grief and sadness, more than just seeing his dead family across the way in a hallucination or something like that. I'm gonna need a lot more from him than that. So we'll see. I don't know where we're at. I need to finish this. So I'm gonna push myself to get a decent chunk of this read tomorrow. Hopefully I will be able to come back and give you guys a pretty substantial update and go through my thoughts. Okay, pardon the mess that is me currently. It has been one heck of a day. So you probably just saw that we got snow, and I live in the South, and snow is not something we get very much. And a lot of times our snow turns to ice and slush very fast. So yesterday we finally got home and the roads were starting to get a little bit icy. About 20 to 30 minutes after we got home, my entire city basically just shut down. And all of the roads were impassable with a sheet of ice. People were stuck on places for like 5 and 6 hours. It was a hot mess. But with that all being said, it's past Christmas now. It is the 27th of December, and I have not updated you on SPFBO in what feels like forever. Yeah, so the world just got really, really busy, really, really fast, and I stopped reading. I hit kind of a slump and just wasn't really feeling reading at all, but I have made it to about 60% of A Touch of Light, so I wanted to give you guys my initial impressions and an update on this one. So far, really enjoying it. I think that it is very well written. I think that the audiobook is doing a really good job, and I'm very, very engaged in the plot and what's going on. There's some points of views that while I am enjoying them, I don't fully understand how everything is gonna come together. So I think it's Adrian's point of view and Lynn's point of view. I can kind of see like how they go together and how at some point they could intersect, but Nasha is a hunter, and I don't really fully understand that culture and how that is going to intersect with the main story yet. It's coming, I'm sure it's coming, and I'm super intrigued to find out exactly how that comes about. Chieko Abdallah drops the reader in. You don't get a lot of exposition or explanation into exactly what is going on in any of this world building. It is just you are dropped in and you're gonna figure it out as you go. Normally, that does not bother me in fantasy stories. I think that unfortunately, because he did it in that way, it is kind of confusing and hard to get your bearings on. I was expecting that to get better as the story went along, but what I'm finding is he is treating the reader to like they're in the world themselves and they know everything that's going on, which is great, but it's to an extent where I don't know what's going on and I can't find out because none of the characters are talking about it. So there are pieces that I'm starting to understand and starting to appreciate and understand like how the magic systems work and everything. But there's a lot about the politics and Adrian's point of view that I just don't fully feel like I've gotten a good grasp on, and I'm 60% into the book, so I would expect to have a little bit of a better grasp. I also feel like there's some times where I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm paying really good attention, and I find myself going, wait, how did we get here? I don't feel like a lot of times the middle points between a point A and a point B are almost too fast to the point where I'm like, wait, back up. I have to reread how we got to a point. But these are really nitpicky things. I am seriously enjoying this book. I think that the plot is really intriguing. I think that the world and the magic system is really, really cool. I do want more griffins. That is something that I want more of, but I think that's coming in book 2. And I'm really having a good time with it. I feel like I'm saying things that are very nitpicky, but because this is a SPFBO finalist and for SPFBO, I did want to touch on some of those things that might bother some readers and are noticeable enough that I feel like I need to mention them. But so far this is shaping up to be a 4-star read, maybe a 4.5, high 4-star, we'll see. I've heard that the ending just really blew some people away. Cassidy was saying that it was a 4-star for her until the end, so I definitely wanted to update you guys before I got to that point. I'm hoping that I can finish it tonight or first thing in the morning, and I'll let you guys know what my final thoughts are. And then as far as A Song for the Void, I'm avoiding it. I'm avoiding it. I have not read any more of it. Once I do, I'll let you know, but it's just a very, very historical read, and historical is not my jam. So anyway, I'll touch base when I've got a little bit more to talk about. I've been talking for 5 minutes already, so I'm gonna go, and I'll check in with you later. Okay guys, so it is time to talk about my final ratings for A Touch of Light by Chiego Abdallah. I really, really enjoyed this book. Really quickly before, though, I give you my kind of breakdown of the rating, I probably should tell you what this is about because I don't think that I've done that yet. This is a fantasy world where death is something that people try to avoid. Their goddess, the Seraph, has supposed to have relieved them from death, and there are still people that die or are killed, but all in all, they value life above all else. We have griffin that are touched upon a little bit in this. We have hunters that have kind of their own culture, and there's this big battle for the domain. It's kind of hard to explain. There's a lot going on in this plot, and I think that this was a lot of setup that is going to really be hammered home and come to fruition in later books. But the world was really good. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed getting to know the characters, and overall had a really good time. I thought the audiobook was very well done, and just generally it was well written. The syntax was good. The dialogue did not feel stilted. Things didn't necessarily feel out of place. So for the writing style, I really enjoyed that as well. So let's go into the individual scores, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit more nitpicky. I have played around with these scores a little bit, and they might change just a smidge, but I think I'm pretty happy with everything that I have so far. So for characters, I think I am going to give it an 8. I think that our 3 main leads, Lynn, Adrian, and Nasha, were pretty well fleshed out, especially Lynn, and even Adrian's point of view, I felt like I understood him. Nasha was a little bit more of a wild card, but I really, really enjoyed her points of view. I feel like they were compelling and had a really, really good time with them. Where I think that this book did lack a little bit was in its supporting characters. For the most part, the supporting characters, I couldn't tell you much about them. I had a really hard time distinguishing who was who, what their role was, anything about them. They didn't really have a lot of distinction. I could tell you who maybe belonged to whose points of view, but I couldn't necessarily tell you, okay, this character is here to serve this purpose and they've done this, and I felt like they just kind of all melded together a little bit. So for that, I think I'm gonna give it an 8. It's great. There were a lot of great things, but it definitely wasn't perfect. For the plot, I think I'm going to give it anywhere between an 8 and an 8.5. Right now, I've settled on an 8.5. We'll see if that adjusts a little bit. Again, great, a lot of great things, but I do feel like the plot is really going to expand and become a lot more fleshed out in later books, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So I think that's why I'm going to give it an 8.5, because even in this book, I can start to see how things are going to come together and how everything is going to play out, even though this was a decent amount of setup. For world building, this is where I'm going to be a little bit different than a lot of people. I know that a lot of others that have read this book thought that the world building was phenomenal, and honestly, the world is really, really cool, but the world building is where I felt like we could use some work. This is a drop you in and just expect you to already know what's going on kind of story, which is completely fine, but I do feel like he could have given us a little bit more sprinkling throughout the story so that we had better understanding globally as we went, instead of being like, wait, huh? For a good portion of the story. Things do eventually come together and really start to make sense, but I feel like those Easter eggs could have been laid out a little bit better and done a little bit sooner, to the point where those bigger moments would have had more impact and made more sense to me, because I already kind of knew what was going on. The Griffins, unfortunately, I don't feel like were very well explained. They were just kind of offhandedly mentioned for the most part, but they play a decent role in one of the POVs, so I would have liked a little bit more background and world building from that point of view, because I feel like they were important, but we didn't really talk about them a whole lot. So I think overall I'm going to give a world building an 8. I think it was great, but I do think that there could have been some minor tweaks that really would have fleshed it out a little bit more and really made me feel like I was super immersed in the story. But I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to see where it goes. I think that Diego Abdallah did a really good job with the syntax and the flow, and just generally, it wasn't hard to read. While there were things that I might have been a little confused or were quite complex, the writing in and of itself was good. It was not childish, it was not stilted, it was not overly flowery or pretentious or complicated. It was just solid, good writing. And then for enjoyment, I think I'm gonna give it an 8.5. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm super excited for book 2. I've heard that it is even better than this one, and so if this is a solid 4-star read, I cannot wait to see what we're gonna get in the future. So I think that's gonna be my rating. It's a total of 8.2. It is a solid 4-star read for the most part. Again, I'm gonna say it again, this was a solid read. I need to go finish off this vlog and finish Song for the Void. I cannot put it off any longer. I have to read it, so I'm gonna go do that. And I just hope that it surprises me. I'm 60 pages in and haven't made any progress, and I'm a little bit nervous for it. But we're gonna power through, we're gonna get it read, and I will check back in with you guys once I've powered through that one, and hopefully we'll all be shocked. I'll be shocked, but hopefully we'll all be shocked. Okay guys, so I am about 60% through the Song for the Void, and I don't really have a lot to say, but I figured I should at least give you a little bit of an update before I hopefully finish it. We're just powering through at this point. This is a very historical fiction book following a doctor on a ship that are going after pirates, and it's during one of the Chinese wars, and they are of course all addicted to opium. This thing comes up in the sky and they don't know what it is, and then slowly everybody starts to go a little crazy. It's a story that I have read many times before. It's just in a very historical setting instead of a modern day setting, so there's nothing really unique about it. And I find that where a traditional horror would give you little pieces of things to keep you kind of on edge and unsettled leading up to the moments where things really start to hit the fan, this one didn't do that. It was a lot of just historical, whatever you want to call it, until about the 60% mark, 50% mark, and then things slowly did start to deteriorate and the horror came in a little bit more. But by that point, I wasn't very unsettled because we had no slow buildup that these types of stories typically do well. Our main character is not very interesting to read from. There's a lot of people and they're all depraved, and just there's nobody to not even root for but fully like get behind. Even if you don't like a character, sometimes you can still understand their motives and kind of get behind that character, but I just don't feel like we really have anybody here. I don't know. It's not really going to be something that I love. I don't think that it's going to be throw it in the fire bad for me, but I'm not having a great time, and I'm just really ready for it to be over, honestly. So I'm going to go finish this. The Kindle says I have about an hour and a half left, so hopefully it won't take me very long. Then I will check back in with you guys. All right, guys, so it is quite late, but I have finally finished A Song for the Void. So let's chat about what I finally ended up thinking of it. Unfortunately, this one just, I don't really understand why it's here more than anything. This is a very historical story that does have, I guess, some horror, but for the most part, the horror elements are not super fantastical to me. It almost feels more sci-fi than fantasy. If it's got any SFF elements really at all, they're very small. And I don't know. I don't really feel like it belonged in this group of books. Not only that, but the book in and of itself just needed a lot of work. Really quickly, characters I ended up giving a 4. I just don't think that there was a lot of substance to them. They didn't have a lot of backstory. Even our main character, we hear about him losing his family and going through this opioid addiction because he lost his family, but we don't get any depth to that. We don't get any of the backstory. We don't see him with his family. We don't feel that gut punch the way that he is trying to portray it, and because of that, I just didn't care. He sounded very whiny. The rest of the characters were purely there as plot devices. They did not have any substance. They did not have any depth to them at all. So I really think that this was below par. There were a few good things, and I could see that the author was trying really hard to bring depth to these characters, but just not really successful in that. Same thing for the plot. I felt like there were a lot of just conveniences. The pacing was really, really slow, and then at the end we tried to speed up and shove everything into the end all at once. I don't really feel like there was a lot of foreshadowing. That's what I was talking to you guys about before, how I feel like he should have sprinkled in some of those horror moments and those tense moments a little bit sooner, so that you would have been more intrigued instead of just bored for the first half of the book and then cram everything into the last half. So again, this is below par. I think I'm going to give that a 4 as well. It wasn't unique. World building, I don't think that the atmosphere worked in the way that the author wanted it to. I never really felt that isolation on the boat. I never really felt the scary dark waters with the pirates coming after them. I never really understood or felt the development behind this star thing and whatever that was. So again, I think that I'm gonna have to give this a 4 as well. Possibly could even give that a 3 or 3.5. I just felt like it was kind of below the median line. It wasn't horrible. It didn't do nothing, but it didn't do nearly enough either. And then with writing, I'm gonna give this one an 8. I think that the writing was well done. There were some instances of repetitiveness where he would repeat the same phrase like 2 paragraphs back to back, which is why I can't give it like a 9 or a 10. But for the most part, it was well written. The syntax was good. The dialogue made sense for the story. It just didn't do much else. And then for enjoyment, I think I'm gonna have to give it a 3. It was about a quarter bad, or a quarter good and 3/4 bad. I just was not at all engaged. I didn't care what happened in the story. I found myself reading faster and faster and faster, or skipping over passages because they just weren't interesting me. So I think I'm gonna have to give that one a 3. And then if we look at the total score, it comes out to a 4.6, which is quite low. That ends up being a 2-star, and yeah, it did not work for me. I wanted it to. I was really hopeful that the cosmic horror would do some great things for me. As a matter of fact, I actually put this one I put it as 6th on my list. I was hopeful, but cautiously hopeful, and it turns out that it was quite low. I think so far this has been the lowest score that I've given by a long shot, and it was just mostly because the enjoyment was low. I wanted it to be over. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. A little Christmas, a little snow, and some good and not so good books. We had a really mixed bag in this one. Let me know down in the comments if you're planning to pick up any of these SPFBO reads, and if you've already read them, what you thought about them. I will be reading the second book in the Touch of Light series. I think it's The Shade of Madness, before January 24th when that one comes out, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you can find links to our Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads all in the description box down below. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.